Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Matt, thanks for stopping by. Now I've got a really interesting pattern for you today. I was flipping through an old 1985 issue of The American Fly Fisher, and I came across an article by John Merwin. John was a writer for Field and Stream and a former editor for Fly Fisherman, and the article was about a guy named Tim Bedford. Thomas Archibald Bedford, born in San Diego, California in 1909. He graduated from Stanford in 1931 as an engineer, then went off to Navy flight school in Pensacola for a couple years. Then in 1935 got a job with Kaiser as an engineer working on the Hoover Dam. In the early 1940s he moves to a shipyard building submarines before World War II. And he stays with the company for 41 years, rising up through the ranks till he retires in 1974. Now, Bedford was a fly fisherman his whole life, but he did come into some renown as a bamboo rod builder, and that's probably why Merwin was interviewing him and out fishing with him in California when Bedford, showed him some flies and said, hey, here's one that's always worked for me out here, and I just call it the last resort. Now, Merwin said it worked great for them that day. He brought it back to the East Coast and fished it in New England, said it worked great in Vermont too. So this pattern he came up with called the last resort. It did get me interested. I looked for it online, couldn't find any information on it. I can't imagine it's in any books, but it's a pretty cool fly, and it's certainly got a really interesting sounding name. So why hasn't any other fly out there been called the last resort? I have no idea, but I'm going to try and do my part to resurrect this fly and put it out there for everybody. Now, it's a really simple pattern. I'd say its unique trait is that it's got a blue rib, either a blue Mylar tinsel or blue crystal flash, maybe even a blue UTC wire wrapped up through a Peacock herl. So despite its simplicity, I know this thing's going to be a fish catcher, and I think it's a bit elegant. I think y'all are going to like it. Let's give it a shot. So there you go in the vise, Tim Bedford's Last Resort. Really a simple pattern, but I think it's kind of elegant. And I don't know what sizes on this thing are common. I'm going to tie it on a 14. This is a standard length dry fly hook. And first thing I want to put on is a little bit of weight. He did mention that he weights it. It's a wet fly tied on a dry fly hook, but it is weighted. So I don't know why he didn't just tie it on a wet fly hook. Maybe it's because what he had. So I've got about 7 or 8 wraps of 015 weight right there. And I'm going to put some black thread on. I'm going to try to keep that weight right in the middle. So I'll put a little dam right back here. Try not to hit the point of my hook. Now I'll bring that weight back, take it up over it. I don't want it too far back, maybe right in the middle. There we go. Now put a little ramp in the front so that we don't have a big drop off when we're wrapping our herl. Now let's take it to the back and try to do the same thing back here. Now before I wrap my body, I'm going to catch in a rib. And Tim did say blue Mylar tinsel, which not a lot of us are going to have. So I'm going to use this blue crystal flash. And it'll work. I'll show you how in a second. It doesn't have to be all crinkly like this. So let's just catch one small piece in. Okay, to about the back where we're going to start our body. And probably need to snip that excess right here. Why we can use this, you see this stuff? You can spin it flat. That's its natural state right there. You can spin it, well that's the wrong way, that's spinning it more corded up. But we can kind of spin it flat like that, and that's how we're going to wrap it. So for the body, we've got Peacock herl. I'm taking 2 strands. I've already snipped off the first couple of inches of the really brittle stuff, and I'm going to catch it in right here, and I'm purposely leaving that long up front. I'll show you why in just a second. So I have enough to just grab and break it off instead of, spending 4 seconds to grab my scissors. So let's just make sure that is a smooth drop off right there. I think we're fine. And I'm going to leave my thread right about the middle. Anytime I'm wrapping Peacock herl more than 1 strand, I like to leave my thread kind of in the middle. That way when they start spreading out on you, that thread will hold them in place. So let's go ahead and wrap this all the way up to the front. Just a little bit in front of that weight, but leave room for our hackle. Okay, 2 wraps to catch that off, and then we can just break these, save those little pieces for the next fly. Okay, a couple extra wraps to lock that in. Now let's wrap this crystal flash. I'm going to counter wrap it and just try to lay it flat. It's probably not a big deal. And if you don't have this, I'm sure you could use blue UTC wire. And a small probably would work. But I'm putting these kind of tight, but not real close together. I want about 4 wraps just to give it that hint of blue underneath that peacock. Okay, I think that's going to work right there. Let's catch this off. Now this stuff is just a little bit more stretchy, I would say, than Mylar, so I'm not going to cut it off yet. I'm folding it back, putting a couple wraps on it right there. Now I'll snip it off. Okay, I'm liking that body so far. And one more component on it, Hungarian Partridge. Pretty much the smallest feather you can find. It's still going to be a big hackle, but the smaller you get, I think the more in proportion, I guess it would be. Create a little tie-in point right here, just like that. Okay, that's 2 wraps. And a lot of times with this, I'll fold it back over on itself, and just to really lock it in. I'm not going to do that this time because I think I would build up too much bulk under my head, so I'm just putting a couple extra wraps, and then I'm going to snip this off pretty close right there. And I'll take my hackle pliers. I'm probably only going to get 2 wraps, 1.5 maybe, but you don't want it too many wraps anyway. But this is such a small feather, I think the second wrap after that one, I'm not really going to be putting down any fibers anyway. So there's my second wrap. Let's go ahead and catch this stem off. I should have mentioned you got to be pretty careful with these tiny partridge feathers because where we caught it in is a pretty thin part of the stem, and if you put much pressure on it at all, you'll just break it. So let's cut that as close as we can get it right here. Just trying to eliminate having a nub right there. So I'm going to pull this back right here. I don't really want this looking like an old spider. I want these to be a little bit swept back. Now who knows if that's how Tim Bedford originally tied it. I didn't see a picture of it, and it didn't really say. It just said partridge wrapped as a collar. So there we go. We got them swept back pretty well, and we got enough room for our whip finish. And let's take a look if we got any cleanup. What you might want to do on a fly like this for cleanup is just pluck some of these fibers out. If you think you got too much hackle, just go in here and strategically pull a few of them out. But I think we're fine right there. I like how this one looks. I want to put a drop of head cement on it and then put it in my box. So there you go, a very simple pattern called the Last Resort. I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.